Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Hussein Huda, and I'm just a student of knowledge. My basic premise is that I'm disturbed by the trends in our society today and how we as Muslims have allowed ourselves to make compromises to our religion in order to appease the Western society that we live in. In recent events, the hijab has come under fire in the West. People have called it oppressive, people have called it demeaning, and they've called it, oppressive to women who just want to be free. Now we know, of course, that this term, this mentality that many of the West use, just be free, you only live once, just do it, is an encouragement to loosen your morals and values that inhibits your ability to live a life in the pursuit of pleasure. And if the purpose of pleasure is the if the purpose of life is the empty, hollow pursuit of pleasure, then I would wholeheartedly agree. Take off your hijab. Run free. In this diseased society that claims that its women are free, but it psychologically enslaves them, whether you realize it or not, through the movies that you watch, through the ads that you see, the clothes that you buy, the entire system of materialism. In fact, the standards of social acceptability enslaves them into a culture of hedonism and sexualization, and claims that they're free simply because they can wear whatever they want, and they don't have to uphold a moral standard. Now, we as Muslims, we must realize that the purpose of life is not just simple entertainment and satisfaction of our nafs, but to love and submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is the hijab? Loosely defined, the hijab means modesty. People, especially in the West today, have tried to modernize Islam and modernize this definition, and they've taken this literal definition out of context and ran with it. They justify that as long as one is modest, then technically you are within the hijab. The problem with this is that the term hijab would thus become a term in which anyone can dictate whatever feels comfortable for them or whatever satisfies their nafs, and the rules of our religion would become subjective. And we've seen how society based on moral subjectivity turns out, and we're seeing it right now in the society that we live in today. But the word of Allah cannot be subject to our whims, our inclinations, and our fancies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His almighty book, in Surah Hijab, verse 59, يا أيها النبي قل لأزواجك وبناتك ونساء المؤمنين يدنين عليهن من جلابيبهن ذلك أدنى أن يعرفن فلا يؤذين وكان الله غفورا رحيما. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to bring down over themselves parts of their outer garments. That is more suitable that they will be known and not be abused. And ever is Allah forgiving and merciful. After this ayah was revealed overnight under the direction of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the women of Medina came out in daybreak shrouded in black. This part, over themselves, means put your outer garments over your heads and throughout the whole body. So this clearly necessitates the head covering, the ni'ab, and the loose-fitted clothing over your garments. And then Almighty Allah, with His infinite mercy and omniscience, tells us the reason why. He knows His creation better than you know yourself. He tells us that you will not be abused if you follow my command. This is for your own sake. In Tafsir Tabari, Abdullah ibn Abbas says that when the believing women go out from their houses, they must cover their faces from top of head with outer garments and keep one eye open. And he demonstrated this by performing it himself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to say in Surah Ahzab, verse 37, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا نساء النبي لستن كأحد من النساء إن اتقيتن فلا تخضعن بالقول فيطمع الذي في قلبه مرض وقلن قولا معروفا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are not like anyone among women. If you fear Allah, then do not be soft in speech to men, lest he in whose heart is disease should covet, but speak with appropriate speech. So this ayah dictates that hijab is not only a physical covering, it is a state of being. It dictates the manners of a woman. Hijab is a state of being that defines a proper way of conduct for women, for your own sakes and for the purity and protection from sins. This means do not speak with an inclination towards anything outside of what's necessary, outside of what's appropriate, and do not prolong the conversation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذا سألتموهن متاعا فاسألوهن من وراء حجاب ذلكم أطهر لقلوبكم وقلوبهن. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and when you ask his wives for something, ask them from behind a partition. That is pure for your hearts and their hearts. So this verse is called the verse of the veil. Bukhari has related on the authority of Anas that before the coming down of this verse, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu had made a suggestion several times to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the effect that, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all sorts of the people, good and bad, come to visit you. Would that you commanded your wives to observe their hijab. According to another tradition, once Umar said to the holy wives, if what I say concerning you is accepted, my eyes should never see you. But since the Prophet ﷺ was not independent in making law, he awaited divine revelation. At last this command came down that except for the mahram males, as being stated in the ayah previously, that no other man should enter the Prophet ﷺ's house, and whoever had to ask something from the ladies should ask for it from behind a curtain. After this command was given, curtains were hung at the doors of the apartments of his wives, and since the Prophet ﷺ's house was a model for Muslims to follow, they too and we too should hang curtains at our doors. This is only in the house, however. But women still have to go outside, right? Islam, of course, does not forbid them from doing so. But if our sisters must go outside, they must still be behind a curtain. The ayah speaks about a partition only in the ayah does not say speak from behind a partition only in the house. The ayah directly says speak from behind a partition, period, universally. That is why it is compulsory. That is why the ni'ab is compulsory. The ayah says if you have to ask women something, you must ask from behind a partition at all times. And what the ni'ab is, it is a partition. It is a curtain in front of your face. It protects you from the glances of men. It separates you from the glances of men. So when our sisters go outside in the view of men, they must still be behind a curtain and a partition to protect themselves from these glances. And that is why, sisters, you must wear the ni'ab. It is a portable curtain, if you will. So in conclusion, my brothers and sisters, don't listen to the pressures from the West and your audience that the hijab and ni'ab is demeaning and impressive, and it treats you like pieces of meat, as the West likes to say. In fact, the ni'ab and the hijab are the exact opposite. It is to preserve your dignity and your honor. The ayah points out that whoever wants to and desires a pure heart should seek to adopt this way. And that is why we should adopt this way, in order to strive for a pure heart. Muhammad Ali, the famous Muslim boxer, as you all know, said something very insightful to his daughter. He told her that the most important and most valuable and most coveted things in this world are covered up, they're protected, they're hard to get to. And he made an analogy to diamonds, which lie miles beneath the earth's crust, and they're protected by layers of rock and dirt. He made an analogy to pearls, which lie at the deep of the ocean, protected by their shells. And these things are one of the most valuable things of all. But our sisters, the most valuable gems of all, in our eyes, are covered up not to be impurified by the cheap glances of those who are unworthy, by those common men outside, but only for the glances of their husbands and their family, their loved ones, who are the only ones who deserve their beauty. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us pure in our minds, our bodies, our souls, and our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to sincerely strive for His love and our approval. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.